Hello, everyone. Welcome back to GovConHacks Live. If you are new here, I am your host, Ashley Duell with Duell Dev LLC, and I'm joined by my co-host, Natasha Velez.
MBS Strategic Solutions, guys.
And we have a special guest today. I'm excited about this topic. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Michael Lejeune of RSM Federal.
Hello.
We're going to be talking about how to brand and market your small business for government contracting success. It's no secret that we talk about relationships a lot, but branding is kind of new, at least for our channel. So I'm looking forward to today's topic.
I would agree. I know nothing about branding, though some would say my beau's a brand. I am very, very intrigued about today's topic and very excited about our guest, Michael.
Awesome.
So tell me, what makes branding create a significant top of mind advantage for a company in this space? Why is it even important?
Yeah. So I think a lot of people, when they think about branding, want to focus on logo, color scheme, things like that. And they think, well, that's my brand. And it really isn't. It's a piece of your brand. Your brand is what people think about when they think about you. You create that brand, and there's all kinds of different elements. Josh argues with me all the time about how, stop wearing the stupid hat, but hat's part of my brand, my casual dress. All those things are part of
Natasha's
Mike's
bow.
brand. Natasha's bow. I mean, all of those things are part of your brand. But what you want to do is be able to create this top of mind awareness so that you create inbound leads. That's the whole point of having a really good brand. Is you will have people from all segments of the market that bring leads to you. So we've been in this business for 15 years. I've been a coach for 20 something years, and we've built a really strong brand through our podcast, through our books, through speaking, a lot of different things. It shocks people when I tell them we don't have a marketing budget. We don't have an actual marketing budget. We do those things. We give away a lot of stuff. We put a lot of really great things out there, and we've built a brand of how we solve a certain problem. Our focus is on helping people master the art and science of government sales. That's our thing. And when it comes to government sales, a lot of people think of us. And so whether it's teaming partners, whether it's, conferences, whether it's experts in the market, there's so many people that know us that funnel stuff to us. And then we have all these resources that are out there that are constantly working in the background for us to bring leads to us. And people think, well, you have all of that and that's your brand. But at the heart of it, our brand is the excellence that we deliver. Right. And that's where people often think about, again, the color scheme, the logo. Hey, I want to put these tools out there, but if the tools suck, it doesn't really matter, at least in the beginning, right? So like McDonald's sucks today, but it didn't back in the day. And
Right.
so its brand is what's carrying it. But I often use McDonald's as the example when I think about a brand and the operational excellence side. When you see an ad for McDonald's, you see a nice, juicy looking cheeseburger. It looks beautiful in the ad. And then you go through the drive through and you get it. And you're lucky if there's not a pound of ketchup in the bag and the cheese is off to the side, and it might have a bun and it might be
Not
upside
what I
down.
paid
You,
for.
you just don't know, right? Yeah, you just don't know what you're going to get. And that's the same thing with government contractors. A lot of times they can put together some really good marketing. And even with AI, people can put together a good proposal, but can they deliver on what they said they were going to do? And if the operational excellence isn't there, if you're not delivering at a high level, then your brand turns into garbage, sometimes wet hot garbage, right? Just like that burger. And so that's where we see a lot of times people miss and think, hey, the brand is all about my logo and how good it looks and how professional it is. But that will only get you so far. If you can't deliver on that promise, then you're not going to keep the contract. You're not going to win the next one. This is a small market in government, and word's going to get around so fast. If you do something stupid with a teaming partner, right? I had this one, you guys would love this. I had a client the other day that said, my teaming partner came to us. They were the incumbent on a contract. And they said, hey, we don't have the right sends on our GSA schedule. And we need you guys to prime this thing. And so they submitted all the work together, submitted the proposal. And then about a week goes by and that company sends my client an email, says, hey, guess what? We won. And they're like, what do you mean we won? We haven't heard back from the contracting officer. And it went silent for a little while. Come to find out, they submitted their own proposal. And they submitted it for about $6 million cheaper than my client because they didn't have a really strong teaming agreement. Like, that word's going to get out because I'm going to tell everybody. They're going on the list and everybody's going to find out the name of this company. I'm not going to say it here, but every time I hear the name of this company, I'm going to tell people this is what they're going to do to you. They're going to use your proposal process to see what you're going to bid and how your pricing is. And then they're going to undercut you because they've done it. You know, so it's a small market. So if you can't deliver and be ethical and all those things, then it doesn't matter how good your stuff looks. It doesn't matter what color your logo is or how smart or creative your name is. It's all about how you deliver on what you say you're going to do. And then we get into the other pieces of it.
How does, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, it's pretty interesting. It kind of like plays into this whole concept. My husband always tells me people don't necessarily remember anything you do or what you say, but they usually remember how you made them feel.
Right.
Yes.
I feel like it kind of plays into that concept that it's the warm and fuzzies. Like, do I feel like it was a good transaction? It was a good, business deal. Did we have a really good time doing it? Did they do quality work? Would I use them again? It kind of pulls into that. Yeah. And I think we do focus a lot on the brand.
Yeah.
But we never hear about the afterwards.
Yeah. People forget that people buy from people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like they don't really buy from the brand. There's an experience with the brand. And if the people on the team aren't a living, walking, breathing, talking example of the brand, then people stop buying from it. And it happens all the time. Again, McDonald's is a great example of that. You got some McDonald's that deliver at a very, very high level, and you're like, oh, that's the good McDonald's in town, because there's probably 6 in your town, right? And so there's the good one, or like you can't get nuggets from that one, but you can get this from that one, or fries from that one.
Are always hot over there.
Yeah, or like their biscuits in the morning are always stale, but this one's always really good. Or what, like, people get to know that kind of stuff, but they also, like, when we moved to Tennessee and we started going through anywhere here, my kids were like, why are they so freaking nice here everywhere? Even if the service wasn't great, they were like, I still like to go back, because the one time we went through, then the lady was like, you got a husky in the car, and people run to the window and they're taking photos of the dog. And they're like, oh, it's so awesome. We love you guys. And they're just being nice. So, like, people remember that, and people buy from people. That's why on the other side of the brand thing, I was just in a call this morning, and this guy was like, I really don't want my face all over the website, and I don't want it to all be about me. And it's like, guess what? Your personal brand's more important than the company brand, because people buy from people. And anybody can start a website, throw some stuff up for sale, and it's so easy. And one of the things I look at is the first sign that it's a scam is there's nothing about the people. You click on the about, and it says something vague about our team, but there's no photos of the founders or any of that kind of stuff. And it's like, I don't want to do business with them. I want to do business where I click on it and I see the story, and I see this guy's an Army veteran, and he was in a helicopter crash and bounced back from that. Now he's doing this, and he's trying to help other veterans. And which is a story that I was listening to yesterday from a business owner. And it's like, oh, that's a really good story. And people buy from people. And so they want to be engaged with that. The other thing about the personal brand is that's the only thing you can typically leverage when you decide to leave your company and start something new. So if you guys decided, I'm done with GovCon and I want to open up a McDonald's, or I'm done with GovCon and I want to open up a nail salon, or I want to open up a janitorial company, or I want to open up a, fill in the blank, right? If you've built a following on social media, it's going to follow you to your next thing and your next thing and your next thing. That's why you see a lot of these billionaires that they're serial entrepreneurs. They've done a lot of stuff, but their personal brand is what's carried them. Like I gave an example this day. I pick any big founder, Elon Musk. You can go to Mark Cuban, Go down the list of people, look at all the brands they own, all of their social media combined, and then look at their individual one. It's usually 10x all of the other ones combined, because people are following the personal brand because they want to do business with a person, not just this machine. And so that's what people miss in government contracting. They think, I just need a capability statement, I need to put a bunch of things together, and they forget about actually delivering on the promise.
I would agree. I want to also kind of mention, because this is the first thing that just came to my mind on this. I feel like we're kind of in this like little weird world where we're starting to transition into AI, and people are getting further and further from that. Like the personal experience is almost disappearing, right? Like every email you get is not really personalized, ChatGPT, or your proposal is not really your proposal. You just wrote it from ChatGPT, or even like pictures. And sometimes I get lost because it's an AI generated photo of someone. It's not really them.
Right.
So I feel like that's being pulled even further. It's really hard to kind of push back into that personal experience when we're so used to being so almost like kind of stepping back from it.
Yeah. And the thing I love about that is it creates opportunity for everybody who's willing to stay personal and do those extra things. So like I was talking to a client earlier today.
That was a good one.
I'm talking to this client earlier today, and he said, everybody that signs up for a free trial or a new account gets a personal call from me, the president of the company. He's like, some weeks I get 20%, some weeks I get 40% of those people, but a lot of weeks I get to 100% of the people that signed up for a new thing with us. And I'm able to call them and just say, hey, are you finding your way around? You know, are you having any issues with the software? And most people are just like, who are you again? You're the president of the company.
Right.
And you're just 5 minutes just to make sure I'm good. You know, I mean, that blows people away when you do something like that. That's something I do with Federal Access. Everybody that signs up for a paid account of any kind, usually within the first hour to 5 hours, unless it's the weekend or something, they get an email from me that's a thank you and a welcome. And part of it is my little standard thing that I copy and paste, and part of it's not. And they all get that. And so it's just one of those things of just trying to keep a little bit in front of them. But even like the handwritten notes or the things that are customized for somebody, there's just so many cool little unique things you can do to celebrate working with people and change the game. And it's not just in the government side, it's in the commercial side too. You know, there's a lot more things you can do in the commercial side. So like we can do really fun stuff in the commercial side. So like we have clients celebrating 3 and 4 years with us on coaching. And so I just bought them watches this week. So I just got them today. I was really excited. I was, looking through these watches, and I don't know if you guys follow, I can't remember his name, Tim Hayden, I think, the Hagley West guy, the Love Your Journey, the watch guy. So I bought his watches because I'm like, I've been watching your journey. We've been in this together. It's kind of like a symbol of our time together, you know, because I've just loved being a part of your journey. And so just kind of using their tagline to kind of be like something a little custom. So I picked out the things I wanted for my clients based on how I know them, you know, and there's little things like that that you can do that nobody else is going to do because they're so enthralled with how do I keep myself in my business, work in my underwear in silence without anybody interacting and make $1 million. Like that's their thing. And they're totally losing the personal side of this, which is where you have the biggest opportunity to build your brand. Just being,
I can say, I mean, I do remember in the last 4 years, the clients who sent me that handwritten card or the one who sent me the homemade Christmas cookies one year, those same cookies actually ended up landing that client a contract after the fact. It was, hey, we got something coming up the road. Thanks for the Christmas cookies. Give me a call on Monday type of thing. So that we did talk about sort of the human part of relationships in government contracting. Last week we had Bradley Lewis on, but you pointed on something. I wanted to kind of break it down for those who might be newer to the audience. You mentioned operational excellence. Why is that considered more or less to be the heart of every great brand? Or what are like a few things simple things or actions that the audience can kind of take to work toward operational excellence?
Sure. I think we'll hit the last one first and see how much time we have. You know, when I look at this, there's usually about 4 main keys to operational excellence. And the first one is being the best at what you do. And to be the best at what you do, you actually have to focus on one thing. That's the hardest part for a lot of people.
It is the hardest part.
Most people have 15 things that they're trying to do, and you cannot be the best at 15 things. You just can't. So you've got to focus at being the best at what you do, which means you've got to pick. That's number 1. Number 2, you have to focus on actually helping people. Like that really has to be where you focus in. And so when I look at me, you've probably heard this from me this year a lot of times, but so for me, my purpose on the planet is inspiring others to chase their dreams. That's my personal thing. But inside my business right now, actually, I just got this yesterday. I should have wore it today. I've got a t-shirt that says obsessed with your success. And that's just my focus is like, how can I help you in any way possible? And I don't care if I get any benefit from it. So I had a family friend email me yesterday and said, hey, I just happened to see you did a podcast with this person, and I just submitted a resume to work with their company. It's been 2 weeks. I haven't heard anything. Would you mind, putting in a good word? So I emailed that CEO, said, hey, if it was up to me, I'd hire her, but I don't have a slot that does this. I heard she interviewed with you. I got a text from her and she said, it took 15 minutes for me to get booked in an interview after your email. 15 minutes. And I've been waiting 2 weeks and I probably wasn't going to get an interview. And I'm like, awesome. There's no way in the world I'm going to benefit from that. But my focus is helping people. And that's it. And I helped that CEO find somebody in a stack of resumes that I know is good. And guess what? That CEO has a somewhat competitive side to us. Like there's something they do that we don't always do, but we could probably get some business if we did more of it, right? And I'm like, no, you interviewed there. You should get the job there. That's what you want, right? And so it's just the focus on helping people that to me is one where people are like, well, I need something to do this. What do I get or I don't want to expend my capital. I'm like, I don't care. I'm just going to help you, right? So focus on helping people is number 2. Number 3 is really being clear about the problem you solve, because most people, again, they don't focus on one thing and they're not clear about the problem you solve. So you can be in this business and be like, well, we help with sales, but we also help with marketing, but we also help with proposals, and we also help with this, and we can cut your lawn, and we can do your cybersecurity, and we can sell your medical supplies.
Just don't make a sale.
It's like the whole middleman thing is what I don't want to go down the rabbit hole, because I know how you guys feel about it too. But we can go down that rabbit hole. That whole middleman thing drives me bonkers, where they're like, just get on Sam and just bid on everything and just use AI to
double the supplier's price and submit that to the government.
Just search for random people in, Colorado Springs who want to do landscaping or whatever it is. And it's like, that's not a business model. It's completely crazy, but you've got to be clear about the problem you solve so that when somebody says, I need help with this, they think of you. And then what usually happens to me is they come to me for this problem and say, you can fix this. Can you also help with this, or know who can? And a lot of times I can say, oh yeah, we can do that too. Right.
Yeah.
So, but it starts with them coming to me for the one thing. And so you've got to be really clear about that. And then I think the 4th key here for operational excellence is I think you really do need to have a vision for your company, and people always talk about a big vision. I think it's very relative, because big to me is not going to be big to you. So your vision may be, I just don't ever want to have to worry about paying my mortgage again. I want that and that could be a big vision. I've been in a place where the expenses were so out of control. We're like, man, if we could just break even, that would be freaking awesome. Right?
Great.
That'd be great. If we weren't in the negative, that'd be awesome. But you need to have something that the team can rally around and focus on, and you can build a culture around. So if you can focus on those 4 things, being the best at what you do, focusing on helping people, being clear about the problem you solve, having a good vision, that helps form the foundation for you to deliver on that promise of operational excellence.
Absolutely agree. Excellent points. I got to give an audience member a shout out. Douglas said he has all of your books and he's been working on his
Thank you,
business
Douglas.
for the past year.
That's awesome.
Learning from you and Josh Frank. So
awesome, man. It's
shout out
there.
to
We have a
Douglas.
brand new federal access member called Douglas. I don't know if it's the same guy, but if it is, I think I saw him in our session yesterday. So like those are things to me where it's like remembering the names of the people that just signed up in your program. You know,
Yeah.
when you
Yeah.
see those people come, like I see every order that comes in, not just the first time. I see every month when Stripe hits, I see that in my inbox. It doesn't go to a folder. I see it in my inbox.
Same.
So I have to look at those names. And when I see those names on LinkedIn, I can say something. When I see them in our lives, I can say something to them because it's important to me that they're spending 59, 249, 29, whatever it is they're spending with me. That's important. Somebody's putting their money in there and I want to know their names. So it's little things like that. Like I know a Douglas just signed up in the last few days. And so it doesn't have to be super hard or complicated.
I love that.
You're right. You're absolutely right. I actually have this, similar setup. Instead of the emails, I have an automation that routes my sale notifications to a Slack channel that comes up on my phone. So wherever I'm
awesome.
at, I see you coming.
You see it. You see it. I mean, it's important, you know?
It is. It's very important, especially, when someone's paying you for a service. First of all, I've actually purchased things where I've gotten no confirmation. Nobody's reached out. I'm kind of left like a fish out of water, wondering, how do I use this thing I just paid for?
Right.
Like, don't be that guy.
Right.
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 Don't be that guy. Natasha,
Yeah.
do you have any other questions for Michael?
Well, I think that one of the things I want to ask is, why is it essential to establish a personal brand? Is it for everyone? Like, it's everybody have to put it, because there's a lot of companies that just focus on their logo.
Yeah.
And you get to a point where you get really large and you almost pull yourself back, and then you have multiple people. So how do you brand yourself when you get to a certain level? Because we know how to brand yourself if it's just one person or two people, but what happens when you become a whole mid-sized large company?
It's a great question. I love to see multiple people in the company branding themselves out there because remember, if you're building a really strong personal brand that's following those 4 keys, the company benefits, the company wins, everybody underneath the company wins, business keeps rolling into the company. So if I had a C-suite of say a dozen executives and in the past there was really only one who had a personal brand, I'd be like, what are the other 11 of you doing here? Like what are we doing? Like, why aren't we out there speaking at conferences? Why aren't we doing other things? When you are at the top of a company or you're in a key role, you should be bringing in sales. Now, I didn't say you need to be in sales, but you should be bringing them in. And if you are an ambassador of the company by being out there and speaking, being on a podcast, writing a book, that kind of gets into the tools of this, using your social media instead of just having a LinkedIn or having a TikTok or whatever it is and not ever posting on it. Like if you're actually using it even a little bit, that's a little bit more the brand in the face of your customers. And the more connections people have with your company, the more likely they are going to stick with your company. I used to work with insurance agents and lawyers and all kinds of different really fun types of businesses. And what we found, I learned this from one of my clients at State Farm. He was like, Mike, if somebody has one policy with us, they're likely to shop us every 1 to 2 years. And that's about as all we're going to keep them. If they have a second policy with them, it's every 3 to 5 years. They have a third policy about every 5 to 7, but there's magic that happens at the 4th policy. If we get a 4th policy, you're not going anywhere. Like the numbers don't lie. You're never leaving. You're never shopping us. And so when I started looking at that, I started forming these alliances back in the day where we would get a lawyer. This was before a lot of the teaming stuff in government that we would do. But we'd pull in a lawyer, we pull in an accountant, we pull in a finance guy, we pull in a tech guy and one other people. And that team would do co-marketing stuff. And what we found is once 2 or 3 of them had signed together and they were referring back and forth, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm talking with John on Monday. I'll mention today that you had a problem with this and he'll give you a call. Like the team just started exploding with their business. So think about that again in the C-suite. If you've got one person doing all the work, I mean, it's beneficial. But if you got 5 or 6 or 11, now all of a sudden you've got more hooks in the water. You've got more people doing business with people that they like. And even if they don't like one of them, because that may be one of the questions, well, what if somebody's a jerk and whatever, and he's on the wrong political side of things, it's still okay because you've got 10 or 11 more.
Yeah.
And that's okay. And that person's going to bring in their crowd, and that's fine. But it's just one of those things where I'd rather see everybody have a personal brand than just 1 or 2 people. And then people are going to go places, and then you can take that brand with you to your next thing. So
That's a good point. That actually reminds me of a conversation we had fairly recently. I think it was in an inner circle about Josh Frank being the one to do the audible version of of Insider's Guide.
Yeah.
Nobody but Josh will be able to do that audio, and for obvious reasons. I mean, it is literally written in the way that he speaks, and coming from anybody else, it just won't be the same.
Yeah, it just won't be the same. Because like when you hit play, like if you heard somebody else's voice, you'd be like, okay. But if you hear his, you'll be like, oh man, this is awesome.
You're in. You'll be
you're gonna be because it is. Go back to the operational excellence side of it. Is I could have AI do it. I could have anyone on the team do it, but there's going to be a letdown.
Yeah.
When it's narrated by the author, and then you get in there, you're like, oh, this is amazing. Right. It just it ratchets it up a notch that there's just nothing else that'll compete with that. So that's why there's these little things like that where people think, well, this is a time saver, or this is better to use, or this automation will do whatever. And it's like, no, the human element, when added to it, focused in on the people, changes the game. And people don't understand that. And they're like, well, that's just a basic business thing. It's not a GovCon thing. Well, you're right. It is basic business, but GovCon business is also a business. It's a basic business. Like
you have to
got
be
to have the
business
fundamentals.
first.
You've got to have the fundamentals of business right before you can layer GovCon on top of it. And if you're screwing up the fundamentals, it doesn't matter how much you win. You're not going to keep winning. And that's what we want to do. We want to keep winning. Anybody can win one contract.
Yes.
But can you win 10? Can you do it for 10 years in a row?
Can you maintain it with a good CPAR rating?
Yeah. Are you going to look like the McDonald's cheeseburger that doesn't even have cheese or has 8 slices of cheese, right? Like, what are you going to look like? Are you going to have ketchup all over the bag? Like, what are you going to look like? And then you're not going to get your next contract. So,
yeah. And you mentioned earlier, word travels fast. Unfortunately, when you do a bad job, it travels faster. Mm-hmm. But it also travels too when you do a good job, and CPARS is one of the ways it's going to travel. So we talk a lot about being customer centric. We talk a lot about relationships, the human side, and the branding. I feel like just kind of ties it up together in a pretty little bow.
Yep. And the operational excellence side does not mean mediocre. It does not mean you met the standard. Meeting the standard will not get around. So you're right. The bad word gets around super fast, but meeting the standard, no one cares. No one's going to talk about you. It's only when you exceed the standard that people are actually going to talk about you.
Yeah, that's a good point. Very good point. I don't see any other questions in the chat. Did you have any more, Natasha?
No, I'm perfectly happy and excited.
Well, I always love these discussions. I always take valuable things away. And I'm one, admittedly, who struggled with branding. I fell in I've got to do more than one thing trap far too many times. So we live and we learn, though. Next week, we are going to have Terry Knight, contracting officer with HHS, joining us. So stay tuned for that. That one was rescheduled from earlier this month. And if you have any last minute questions, now's your chance, guys. Drop them in the chat on YouTube if you're watching.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. That was really great. That was a really great episode. I appreciate all of you for watching too. And to my co-host and my guest, you guys all have a great evening and a great weekend.